July 28, 2025, Daily Bread. Passage, 1 Chronicles chapter 15, verse 1 to verse 29. Key, verse 13. Title: Carrying the Ark in the Prescribed Way. After David had constructed buildings for himself in the city of David, he prepared a place for the Ark of God and pitched a tent for it. Then David said, "No one but the Levites may carry the Ark of God, because the Lord chose them to carry the Ark of the Lord, and to minister before him forever." David assembled all Israel in Jerusalem to bring up the Ark of the Lord, to the place he had prepared for it. He called together the descendants of Aaron and the Levites. From the descendants of Kohath, Uriel the leader and 120 relatives. From the descendants of Merari, Azariah the leader and 220 relatives. From the descendants of Gershon, Joel the leader and 130 relatives. From the descendants of Elizaphan, Shemaiah the leader and 200 relatives. From the descendants of Hebron, Eliel the leader and 80 relatives. From the descendants of Uzziel, Aminadab the leader and 112 relatives. Then David summoned Zadok and Abiathar the priests, and Uriel, Asaiah, Joel, Shemaiah, Eliel, and Aminadab the Levites. He said to them, "You are the heads of the Levitical families. You and your fellow Levites are to consecrate yourselves and bring up the Ark of the Lord, the God of Israel, to the place I have prepared for it. It was because you, the Levites, did not bring it up the first time that the Lord our God broke out in anger against us. We did not inquire of him about how to do it in the prescribed way." So the priests and Levites consecrated themselves in order to bring up the Ark of the Lord, the God of Israel. And the Levites carried the Ark of God with the poles on their shoulders, as Moses had commanded, in accordance with the word of the Lord. David told the leaders of the Levites to appoint their fellow Levites as musicians, to make a joyful sound with musical instruments, lyres, harps, and cymbals. So the Levites appointed Heman, son of Joel, from his relatives Asaph, son of Berechiah, and from their relatives the Merarites, Ethan, son of Cushiah. And with them their relatives next in rank, Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Benaiah, Maaseiah, Mattithiah, Eliphelehu, Micniah, Obed-Edom, and Jael, the gatekeepers. The musicians Haman, Asaph, and Ethan were to sound the bronze cymbals. Zechariah, Jaziel, Shemramoth, Jehiel, Uni, Eliab, Maaseiah, and Benaiah were to play the lyres according to Alamoth, and Mattithiah, Eliphelehu, Micniah, Obed-Edom, Jeiel, and Azaziah were to play the harps, directing according to Sheminith. Kenaniah the head Levite was in charge of the singing. That was his responsibility, because he was skillful at it. Berechiah and Elkanah were to be doorkeepers for the ark. Shebaniah, Joshaphat, Nethanel, Amasai, Zechariah, Benaiah, and Eleazar the priests were to blow trumpets before the ark of God. Obed-Edom and Jehiah were also to be doorkeepers for the ark. So David and the elders of Israel and the commanders of units of 1,000 went to bring up the ark of the covenant of the Lord from the house of Obed-Edom with rejoicing. Because God had helped the Levites who were carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord, 7 bulls and 7 rams were sacrificed. Now David was clothed in a robe of fine linen, as were all the Levites who were carrying the ark, and as were the musicians and Kenaniah, who was in charge of the singing of the choirs. David also wore a linen ephod. So all Israel brought up the ark of the covenant of the Lord, with shouts, with the sounding of rams' horns, and trumpets, and of cymbals, and the playing of lyres and harps. As the ark of the covenant of the Lord was entering the city of David, Michal, daughter of Saul, watched from a window, and when she saw King David dancing and celebrating, she despised him in her heart. Daily Bread Message. While the ark was kept in Obed-Edom's house for 3 months, David prepared a place for the ark and decided to bring it to Jerusalem again. He learned from his failed attempt that he didn't carry it correctly. According to God's commands, only consecrated Levites should carry the ark on their shoulders using wooden poles. David found that in doing God's work, the process was as important as the goal. Good motives and goals do not exempt disobedience from obedience. We are to do God's work in God's way. This time David called more than 800 Levites and told them to consecrate themselves. He also appointed musicians and singers. As the ark was brought up, David danced joyfully in the procession, entering the city with the ark. He did not hold back his expression of thanks and worship to God. David's dance offended Michal, David's wife, who didn't share David's heartfelt joy and thanks to God. Instead, she despised David, who took off his royal robes and danced in the streets without keeping his royal dignity. Thus she lost God's blessing. Prayer. Lord, you are the source of my joy and thanks. Help me to do your work according to your way and worship you joyfully. One word. Find joy by following God's words.